only 60% of the real job offers are online. Okay, the rest, the 40%, is hidden.
A proper and precise message, what you want, who you are, and what's your quality.
There's kind of like a big difference between what is an internship and what is a call.
What are the key steps or the things that they have to keep in mind when they are applying for universities or colleges?
Jobs sometimes based on friendship. There are plenty of scholarships around. Okay, even sometimes certain scholarships are lost every year. Don't try to play the smart one just by going into ChatGPT and asking in a prompt. Canada is becoming a bit more selective.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Learn Launch with Raviteja Murabana, episode 11. In this episode, we'll be having a conversation with Henry, who has held various roles ranging from economics professor to an associate dean. With over a decade of experience, he brings a wealth of knowledge to our discussion. So without any further delay, let's welcome Henry. It's great having you on our show, Henry. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ravi, and good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are listening to this episode. So thank you so much for the invitation, and it is amazing to be here.
Thanks for your time and accepting my invitation, Henry. So how did your journey into this education field started?
Well, I will say that for me, education has been something that's been in my family for a long time. So let's say that for me, it was always a dream to talk in front of people. So since I was in school, I will say that public speaking became something that really nurtured my soul. So I will say my first goal when I, let's say, graduated from high school was to at some point become a teacher. So why was this? Because my grandfather, who passed like a couple of years ago, he was a teacher. So he was my inspiration. And let's say that I wanted to become at least a little bit of what he was. And then let's say that I went to university. I had my bachelor's in economics and finance, and just right after, like 1 year after graduation, or less than that, I think 6 months after, I got my first teaching job in a university, teaching economics. So let's say that's kind of like my first approximation with education. This is I'm not talking about Canada. I'm talking about Colombia. I'm from Colombia, South America, and that was back in 2014. Okay. Then in 2015, I did my MBA, my Master's of Business Administration. I kind of like went away a little bit from the education world, still had it in my mind. So 2016, I was back in university teaching. And then it came the big jump to Canada, which is really where my whole potential really got exploded. Is kind of like the time that I could really join the workforce in terms of education. I don't want to make it too long, but essentially, when I came to Canada as an international student, last thing you think as an international student is to actually land a job in a qualified position, right? Because you're always expecting to start entry level, restaurant, sales associate, things like that. That are not bad. Definitely, they're good. There's always a place where you can start. But my biggest surprise was that in Canada, my experience as economics professor, as business professor back in my home country was valid, and they took it into account, and they kind of like offered me this position for teaching to international students in a private high school in Toronto. So that was kind of like my first glance of a teaching job in Canada. It was really like a surprise. We can go deeper into that first experience later on if possible. And then just came to realize that I wanted to mix a little bit of my background in management with my background in teaching. So at some point, I decided that no longer wanted to be exclusively a teacher, but I also wanted to join administration. And that's when I got my first management job in education, that was program coordinator. You will be surprised that it was not long ago. It was 4 years ago, 4 years and a half ago. And since then, I've been like really escalating. Okay. And that's something that maybe your audience is curious about. How is that possible? And the answer to that is that in life, you are getting promoted in one of or two ways. First, you stay in a job for a long, long time and you get promoted, or second, you jump to another company and you get promoted yourself. So that's
True.
exactly what I did. And after this program coordinator, I got a promotion within the same company. So I became academic manager. Thing is that this promotion took very long time. So that's something that really made me start to look. And that's why, after getting promoted to academic manager 4 months later, I landed my second promotion in less than a year. But this one was with another company, and I got this academic director position. And most recently, after 2 years as the academic director, I got a new position as a associate dean for a school of business in a public college. So if you ask me, dreams possible in Canada, I will say yes.
Thanks for sharing, Henry. And as you mentioned, you're saying that you came from Colombia, right, as an international student. So obviously, international students will be facing a lot of challenges here. So the first part, I think, while applying for the colleges and universities, what are the key steps or things that they have to keep in mind when they are applying for universities or colleges?
I will say that it is important for them to keep in mind why they are coming. Okay,
Mhm,
so if let's say that it's not bad that you keep in mind that, for example, I don't know, you want to reside in the country permanently, and that's
mhm,
your end goal. Okay, but
mhm,
it's not only about the goal, but also about the process that you will need to go through. Never forget about the goal, but also enjoy the process. So I will say that things to keep in mind is that there will be challenges. Okay, as nothing in life is for free, nothing in life is granted.
Yep.
So I will say that that's one thing that is important to keep in mind. Challenges that you need to fulfill some requirements. So if you're coming to study, keep in mind that that's number one. And that's something that, let's say, many international students forget about, is that I know that working is a must because you need to send money back and all of this. But keep in mind that you, at first, you are coming to study, and let's say that's the way that Canada is opening the door for you. So if Canada is actually opening the door for you to study, at least start from there. Then
Mhm,
you will find a good job later on down the road, or even
mhm,
while you study, who knows. And at the end, for if you did the things in the right way, for sure there will be opportunities for residing permanent.
mhm. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Henry. And even like, whenever they are applying for these universities, there will be a few qualifications, right? For example, in bachelor's, they have to have minimum 80%. But let's say I have maybe 79 percentage, but I do have other qualifications like certifications, experience, and so on. So will there be any chance of getting into the university, even though if I have like 1% less?
Let's say that there are some cases that can be treated as case by case, but usually admission standards are very much like strict. So
Mm-hmm,
sometimes I have seen cases of students not even able to get admitted to a college or to a university due to 1 or 2%. And
mm-hmm.
that's something that is more on the norm. We need to follow kind of like the policy, and sometimes policies are without exception.
And also like whenever they are selecting these colleges and universities, I think selecting the course which has co-op is the right one, right? Because they'll be only competing with certain number of people, but if they go out of the college after graduation, they have to compete with like hundreds and thousands of people. So do you think like taking a college admission in which there is an co-op program is the right one?
Well, here it is important to mention as well that most of the co-op opportunities are not paid. Okay, and
Mhm,
let's say that very few of them are paid actually. So that's something to consider as well. There's kind of like a big difference between what is an internship and what is a co-op. Right.
yep.
So we tend to, let's say, confuse both terms because they are kind of like related. But co-op, essentially, let's say the institution will give you the guidance into how to find it. The internship or the placement is the
Mhm,
college, the one that is going to provide you with that. Okay, so
mhm,
it comes a lot to the responsibility of the student to find their own co-op Okay,
Mhm.
co-ops are great. I can tell you that when I came to Canada to study, I
Mhm.
studied in a co-op program. Okay, it gives
Mhm.
you like a good grasp of the experience you can get in the Canadian workplace. Okay,
Mhm.
but again, it will come back to you. Okay, you are, let's say, responsible for yourself, for your progress, for your advancement. And let's say that securing a good co-op position is not like a guarantee of anything after that. So you need to see things as they are. So the co-op may be the platform for you to jump after. Maybe
Yeah.
is kind of like sometimes idealistic that you say, I start the co-op and the company will keep me. That's mostly not the case.
Yeah, even I think there will be some internal portals, right, within the college or university. Like even I got the same, like I got into my first job with the co-op. So with the internal portal that my university has provided, I was trying to different jobs, and finally I got. And after co-op, I got a full time. So I think whenever you're searching for co-ops, you should have an idea. Okay, my college is providing a certain, internal a portal where you can also apply, because few people may concentrate and they'll be, searching for, bigger market than where you can get it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I will say about that is kind of like it comes a lot to your responsibility. So, what you want, what kind of job are you pursuing, what kind of co-op do you want to get? And I will say, like, there are plenty of strategies out there, like creating these job alerts that you get every now and then, some emails telling you there are these jobs that are maybe related to your search. So that's another thing that is kind of like important. And let's say that also it is important as well to kind of like try to find something related and something that is eligible for co, right?
Mhm.
Because there are plenty of jobs around, but many of them are maybe not that related or will not satisfy the requirements of the co.
Yeah, that's true, Henry. And also, like, whenever the international comes here, they'll be searching for part-time jobs, as you said, in grocery stores or restaurants, like a lot of other jobs. What do you think about TAs and RAs, like research assistantship and teaching assistantship? Like, can they apply from their home country and get those TAs and RAs? What do you think? Like, what's your opinion on this one?
I will say it will depend on the company, right? It will
Mm-hmm.
depend on the college. I am not fully aware if there are companies out there like sponsoring that directly. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but it is always worth applying. Okay, but my best piece of advice is that it would be easier if you're already in Canada. Okay, if you're trying to apply from abroad, chances are very slim, to be honest, to get something and to be sponsored, unless you're moving maybe to a province that is really, really in need of people. Let's say Nunavut or Yukon, those things. Because I know that, for example, for Nunavut, you will see that they are sponsoring people and they don't care where you are, but they will sponsor you. They will pay you a living allowance.
Mm-hmm.
But the trade-off of that is that you will need to live in the Arctic. So that's kind of like the thing. But if you ask me what is the best way to do it, is maybe come to Canada, and once in Canada, and if you want a teaching job, it will be better to apply from here.
Got it. And even I think network plays an important role where you connect with different people and you can get to know about those opportunities, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. I will say that networking is essential, and this is something that is fundamental in Canada. Like in Canada, you will see that it is not too different from what you may be used to. You
mhm,
may be used to having friends, and your friends will recommend you to a position. Is exactly the same thing here, and you will realize that it is no different at all. Like you will have a friend, and that friend knows that in his or her company or in their company they are hiring and they
mhm,
recommend you. So that's why it is kind of like important. This is something that I learned like quickly in Canada,
mhm,
is that only 60% of the real job offers are online. Okay. The
mhm,
rest, the 40%, is hidden. Okay. Hidden where? They are hidden in recommendations. My friend that I know is recommended for this position.
mhm,
That also in that 40%, you may also find the internal openings. Okay, that
mhm,
sometimes can be satisfied, sometimes don't, and
mhm.
which really means that whatever you see in the Indeed, whatever you see on LinkedIn, is just 60% of what really is out there.
True, I agree. If you can showcase your talent with them, you may get an opportunity within that company. And also, like, how does this college support international students in adapting to this Canadian education system?
Well, I can tell you that colleges in general, and
Mhm,
I'm talking about at least the ones that I have had experience working with, they
mhm,
have plenty of services for students. So they have student services that organize a lot of activities. They have
mhm,
career services that also help them in terms of polishing their resume, trying to get them prepared for job interviews. So, student services is mostly in terms of making sure they adapt to the way of living in Canada, which is
mhm,
way different to what some of us have been used to. There are plenty of services, academic advising as well. So sometimes it's not easy, for example, in terms of academic integrity, things like that, that are not that strict in other countries, but in Canada, they place a lot of importance into that. So
mhm.
there are plenty of services that will make the experience more, let's say, easier and smoother for them to adapt.
Thanks for sharing that, Henry. And I think students have to search what are the clubs that they have, which is the right one to get into the club, and that's how you can make friends, and that's how you can be comfortable. Even like when I came here, initially, like to be honest, I came during the COVID, and I went only 3 months to my university. So it was like I had less experience with the university, to be honest. But I had a chance to get into certain clubs and did some activities that were really good. And yeah, I think people who are coming to Canada or any other countries, they have to search like what are the clubs that they have, and they have to join them, because that is the first step to start the networking after coming to Canada. Thanks
Yeah,
for
exactly.
that.
I will say that now that you mentioned about those clubs, it is also important to keep in mind that if you're coming alone, if you're a student that is not coming maybe with a partner, with a like a spouse or wife, husband,
Mhm,
whatever you want to call it, keep in mind that sometimes loneliness can play against you, okay? And that's something that maybe you will need to come prepared as well for. Not easy to
mhm,
prepare for that, but you will realize that the maybe the warm society that you are used to, the people that tend to be so close to each other, you will not find exactly the same here. So it
mhm.
is always important that you keep in mind that you need friends, okay? And that's why, as Ravi, you were saying, it is crucial for you to start joining clubs, either if it is a soccer club, a movie club, a chess club, whatever club you can join, it will give you the opportunity to like find friends, okay, or at least make a couple of acquaintances so that you are not feeling that alone. And this applies especially when it is the winter time.
True. You'll be staying in the home, and like there's like not much places to go. And even like I think colleges will be providing certain scholarships, right, for students.
Yeah, I can tell you that there are plenty of scholarships around. Okay, even
Mhm,
sometimes certain scholarships are lost every year because people, let's say, their own imposter syndrome is not allowing them to apply. So they say to themselves, "Who am I to win a scholarship if I am not the best?" Because that's kind of like the image that we have in our minds is that scholarships are reserved for just few people in the world, and that's not always the case. So there are
mhm.
plenty of scholarships. So my invitation for that will be like a shop around, look around what they ask for, and try. Why not? Like initially, if you don't try, the answer is no. So at least try it, maybe get surprised.
True, I agree. Even like one of my friend who has applied, like he was searching for government programs back in the home country, and there were a few programs which he applied for, and he came to Canada. He has completed his graduation, even though there was no response from that government entity. But guess what? Like after getting his job, he got a notification that your scholarship has been approved. So he got more than 25,000 from that government entity. So as you said, you just need to apply. There is nothing to lose. And even I think coming to after Canada, in Canada, even depending on your percentage, I've seen in few universities, let's say for example, if I get more than 4 GPA, so I'll be getting like maybe 10 or 20% of the scholarship. Depending on that, I think even students have to look into those scenarios as well, because like most of the students, I think they'll be missing those things. As you said, people don't care. Okay, why should I apply? Like maybe I may not be eligible. Also, like how can a students manage their finances, Henry? like after coming to Canada?
Well, okay. I think that's a hot topic because, like in our countries or wherever someone is listening us from, it is important to keep in mind that unless you're earning in US dollars, here you will
Mhm.
pay a higher price for everything. Okay, just based
Yep.
on like raw conversion rates, the Canadian dollar is one of those, let's say, not super expensive currency, but
Mhm.
definitely like things tend to be like more expensive to what we are used to in our countries. So I will say that it is important that students always keep in mind that it is important to keep within the budget. Okay, so make a budget and project your expenses, project your income. I am pretty sure that some of your audience may have a background in either finance or accounting or economics. So I
Yep.
will say that a good piece of advice, and this is something that I used to do when I was a student, was to produce my own income statement for my own, let's say, activities. So my activity was teaching, my business activity was teaching, and I will put like income, teaching, and then I'll put my expenses. Then at the end, I will kind of like project some sort of possible unexpected things. Okay. And I will put as well like a kind of like a how much am I keeping for myself and for savings. So it is a lot about organization. It is a lot about keeping in mind that if you're bringing savings to the country,
Mhm.
keep in mind that if you depend on them, most probably you will end up spending some of that very quick. So work, finding a job, finding that opportunity that will support your standard of living is essential, but more essential than that is to keep an organized way of spending.
True. And like, what percentage of amount that we have to save according to you, Henry? Like,
Let's say that it is depending on the situation, to be honest.
Mhm.
When you live as a student with a student budget, it is hard to save, to be honest, unless you're taking on multiple jobs, which is sometimes the case, but always check on the regulations in terms of the number of hours that you can work. But let's say a good percentage will be something around 20% if you are able to, because at some point you will be running on a tight line with the overdraft, right?
yeah. So that's true. Thanks for sharing that. And also, coming to the job opportunities, right now the market is very bad. Some of the strategies that we can apply to get a full-time job.
Well, I will say that there are plenty of ways that you can do it. And I will say that one great way is to look for the right opportunity. Okay, let's say that you go on Indeed and you find out that company X is hiring for this associate position, and you think that you have all of the requirements. So I will say first step is to apply.
Mhm.
Second step, and if you are proactive, of course, take a look into the company's website if the position is still available. Okay. Then I will say get deeper into it. Okay.
Mhm.
Try to find out who is actually recruiting for that position. So find out who is a recruiter. Okay. Why? Because again, people, let's say, get jobs sometimes based on friendship. Okay. Based on someone they know. Okay. And the recruiter is more likely to give you a chance if they know the candidate, if they know that, look at this person is no longer just a resume in the application. This person is a person, someone that I can talk to. So why are we looking for the recruiter? We're looking for the recruiter to contact that person, okay? And you will be surprised. Many people is kind of like too shy to do it, okay? But my advice is, again, as with the scholarships, from the start, if you don't do it, you have a no. And you will have the question of what could it happen, right? What would
Mhm.
happen if I did it, right? So send a message to the person on LinkedIn, okay, once you have found him or her, and explain why you're the best candidate for the position, and that will create that closeness, right? And let's say that that closeness, and if the recruiter sees that your qualifications align with the job, it is very likely that the person is going to provide you with a chance. Why? Because remember, the job of the recruiter is to find the person. If you're making it easier for them, they will be happy. You will be happy because you get your chance. They will be happy because they have found someone without even having to look too much for them. So that's a good strategy that I have used a couple of times, and it
Mhm.
has worked.
Great. Yeah, true. Sending a short message should be fine,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah, yeah,
a
yeah. Of
brief
course,
message
of
about
course,
who you are. Yeah.
of course. Think about that. People usually don't have time, so they will not read too much. Okay, and don't try to play the smart one just by going into ChatGPT and asking in a prompt, give me this text, because ChatGPT will give you like two paragraphs. So people need a quick message, something that really conveys that you are maybe a very good candidate or maybe the best fit. Okay, but make it easy to digest. Okay, couple of lines, let's say in the form of an elevator pitch. Okay, and that's something that definitely can at least give you a chance.
That's true. Because as I've seen, like many people, when they have contacted me, they usually keep a para. Like I usually tell them that okay, this is not the way that you have to do. You have to keep a precise message because they'll be not having time, and whenever they see this long message, they usually ignore it. Like they even don't respond to those messages. So make sure you have kept a proper and precise message, what you want, who you are, and what's your qualification, and so on. So yeah, that's true. That's how like people get connected to you. That's how you can chat with each other. uh, so LinkedIn plays a crucial role. So is there any other platforms other than LinkedIn?
LinkedIn is one of those that gives you so much flexibility into doing things. So, because I will say something that is important to realize is that LinkedIn is not your
Mhm.
resume, right?
Yeah,
So, one thing is your resume that, of course, you can download it from LinkedIn, okay? But LinkedIn is not your resume because your resume is plain. Your resume is not changing. So
yeah.
it is important to keep in mind that LinkedIn is more like a social media, really, that you can take advantage of. So I will say that other than that, my advice for you is to optimize your LinkedIn profile. So keep a very good looking picture. Okay, make sure that you are not using any filters for the picture, that you are not using something informal in your picture. Let's say that important as well is to keep in mind that recommendations. So
Yeah.
recommendation is a way of social proof. And if you have recommendations in your LinkedIn profile, is something that will make it stand out. Okay, so that's something that it's kind of like a product review. So when you go into Amazon and you want to buy something, you look at the reviews. When you look into Google Maps and you're looking for a restaurant, you look into the reviews and which place will you go easier or most likely, if you see a place with no stars at all or a place with few stars, of course you will go to the few stars. So
Yeah.
same thing will happen with LinkedIn. If you have a couple of recommendations, if you have given recommendations, that's something that can play in your favor. Before even like contacting people on LinkedIn, make sure that your LinkedIn is shiny. And for that, you don't even need to pay like the premium. The premium is something that I will say sometimes work, but most of the times don't. Okay, so the premium is more if you are hiring or things like that. But really, the times that I have landed a job through LinkedIn has not
Mhm.
been with premium. So it also talks about your own ability to contact people, to network, to polish your profile. And for sure, if you want to connect on LinkedIn, you can find me as Henry Gomez, and you will see me there. And you can take a look. Let's say, modesty apart, I have like around 30 people already recommended me. Means that that works. That works because those are reviews. Okay, so think about yourself as selling your personal brand. You're selling your personal brand to your company, to the company that you're aspiring to. So it is kind
Mhm.
of like a super super important.
True, true. And how do you think like we can get those recommendations? And like, do we have to connect with those people, and do we have to send invite? Like, how does that work? Like, or is it?
Perfect. Yeah, I can tell you that it's something very easy. You can start from your, let's say, if you're a student, you can start from a colleague, from a
Mhm.
classmate, a classmate that tells each other, I want to improve my LinkedIn profile. What about if you give me a recommendation and I give you one in return? So there you go, you have one. Then you're working on a part-time job and you also have a colleague in your work that you have made maybe a friendship. Ask that person, give me a recommendation. What
Mhm.
about if you have a good relationship with your boss? Hey, I'm trying to improve my LinkedIn profile for future opportunities or to land a good co-op. Would you mind giving me a recommendation? And people will do it. Okay, people, if they care about you, if they know you, if they want to make you a favor, or if they really want to see you improving, they will do it for you. So it's not hard at all. And let's say that in a matter of few years or a matter of few months, at least you will have 5 to 10. So and with those you can start.
For sharing that, Henry. And even I think, LinkedIn plays an important role. Back then, when I came here, I was searching for part-time jobs, and like a lot of jobs, like I got rejected. Like name it, I got rejection from them. So I was like thinking, okay, why don't we start in LinkedIn? Like I was searching part-time jobs in LinkedIn. That's where I got connected with many professionals, CEOs, and many other people. And I was fortunate enough that they called me for an interview. And since back, I did few courses related to cybersecurity, hacking, and other stuff. So they gave me interview. It was like around 4 to 5 hours, and I got into that. I cracked it, and finally I got a job as a part time. So a lot of people, when they come to Canada, they think that okay, they may had an option to go into restaurants, grocery stores, and so on, but that is not the case. But if you can go beyond your limits, go to the LinkedIn or other platforms, try to network with people. That's how you can land in a the professional job as well. So it's the only matter of networking. So that's after
Yeah,
coming to Canada, I learned a lot.
Ravi, I will tell you that this is my personal story, and it can be different for many people. Look, when I first came to Canada, my instinct was to start looking for an entry level job, which is not wrong, as I mentioned in the past. So my first instinct was to start looking, for example, for things that I know that I like. For example, I was looking for sales associate at GameStop because I like video games. But then when I went to college, okay, I am, let's say that this is how teachers can change the life of someone, and I will say that I will be forever grateful with one of my teachers in college. That teacher told me, Henry, what were you doing in Colombia? What was kind of like your job in Colombia before coming to Canada? And I said, like, yeah, I was teaching. I was economics professor in a university. And this teacher told me, and why don't you apply here to be the same? And I said,
Mhm.
because I don't have, my English is not enough, because I don't know the vocabulary, because I have never taught in English, because I have never had an interview in English. So and those are, let's say, your internal ghosts that are trying to spook you. Those are your
Mhm.
internal ghosts that are trying to defeat you. Okay, so more than the networking, I will say, is also on yourself. It's also on your own ability to defeat the imposter syndrome, which is something that keep us away from achieving our full potential. So long story short, I took the advice of this teacher. I went online. I created my profile. It was not LinkedIn, and then I looked for a job. I found this job it was like a grade 12 economics professor in a
Mhm.
high school, and I said, I'll apply. Why not? So I
That's
applied
really
to it, and to my surprise, on a Friday afternoon, I got a call, and the call was, we would like to see you in an interview. And to my surprise, let's say that I couldn't believe it first, but I was enjoying every step of the process, which is something that I said at the beginning of the interview is enjoying not only the goal that you have in mind, but also every step that you take to achieve it. And I said, like, well, I already got a call for an interview, which means that maybe I can do it. I went to the interview. Of course, my English was not that good as might be now, or was, let's say, worse. So when I went to the interview, kind of could talk, listen, but sometimes it was hard for me to decipher what the other person was saying. And even though that, I did it. Okay, I attended the interview. It was 1 hour interview, very long interview, and I was able to actually finish the interview. So for me, it was another win. 1 week passed after the interview, no news. 2 weeks passed, no news. And then I decided to send a follow up. Hey, what happened? Am I still in the process? And all of this. And to my surprise, again on a, let's say, Wednesday evening almost, I got
Mhm.
the news that I was hired and that I was going to start. And I'm telling you that, look this, I arrived to Canada, I arrived to Toronto on November 2nd, 2016. And my first
Mhm.
class as a teacher in Toronto in a high school was November 21st. So is it possible? Yes, it is. But it
Mhm.
depends a lot on you. It depends a lot on how you challenge your fate.
Yeah, true. I agree. And even I think you have to showcase of yourself. Whenever you meet a person, you have to tell them like what are the abilities that you have, because if you just meet a person cannot imagine that okay, this person has so and so qualities. So obviously you should promote yourself, you should showcase about yourself, these are the things that you have done. Because back then there was a scenario where as part of my university career bus tour, I went to one of the company, and they were showcasing about the products, and at that point of time I was showing curiosity about those products. I was, because as a part of cybersecurity I was telling them okay, like usually this is the way that I can go into this product and that can compromise it. So I was asking a lot of questions to them, so they were really interested, and that's how like my co-op, like they offered me a co-op. So the reason why I'm sharing this is you have to promote about yourself, because if I in that company, if I was like just sitting and listening to what they have said, probably they may not able to know like what are the capabilities, right? So obviously you have to showcase about yourself, tell about yourself, what you have did and so on. So that's how you can reach more people. And yeah, I was happy that I selected Canada, and met a good number of people, made a good connections. So as you said, it's right, first it should come within you. So don't be afraid of connecting with the people, just go and talk to them, uh, like initiate the conversation. From there you can get the opportunity or build good connections which may be helpful in the future as well. So thanks for sharing that, Henry. And also, how do you see the landscape of international education evolving in Canada?
Okay, I will say that there are changes that came into effect like recently. This was this January 22nd, the IRCC announcement, which of course have impacted the way that Canada became an international student destination. Not that it is no longer attractive. I believe it is still attractive, but to keep in mind is that Canada is becoming a bit more selective, right? So it's just kind of like a narrowing down the opportunities. Still, Canada is looking for people, but in order to be, let's say, qualified enough for that, you will need to prepare yourself and make sure that you are coming to Canada to do the thing that you applied to, right? So how is the landscape looking at in Canada? Canadian education has been always great. Canadian education has been always top notch. So I don't see that changing. Only thing that I see is that they are becoming more selective, and they are going to be to start focusing on some key areas that are essential or that are becoming essential for the Canadian economy. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about anything related to IT, anything related to artificial intelligence, anything related to healthcare, to things like that. So there's definitely a big shift, okay, because as many of you may know, Canadian population is aging, and that's why a lot of people is coming to Canada to work in the healthcare industry, because that's booming right now. So we need a lot of people to support that aging population, and also to support with new workforce entering the market, but on certain areas. So where is the Canadian education system going? Towards specializing and becoming more selective.
Got it. Yeah, that's true, because there are a lot of restrictions nowadays, and people should be more qualified to get into those. So I agree. And also, like after coming here, how can students manage work as well as study? Because I see a lot of people do more than their capacity. Like as
Mhm.
you said, like sending money back, they'll be doing more than that. So, like, what suggestions do you give to them? Because like the main reason is for study, right? So
Yeah, I will say that it is important to work, and I understand it, because it is the way to, let's say, control the spending, not eat the savings, and all of this. But always keep in mind that your primary goal in Canada, if you're coming as a student, is to study. Okay, and let's say that working, it is important, but it is not the primary thing. Okay, when you, let's say, apply to your postgraduate work permit, if that's the case, the immigration officer is not going to take a look at what kind of job did you do. The immigration officer is going to decide based on your academic performance. So let's say that you need to always keep that in mind, because people think that sometimes the PGWP for the institutions that are granting that, okay, is something granted, is something that is automatic, and it is not.
mhm.
It is something that, as it is a possibility that in more than, let's say, 80-90% of the cases is for sure, But I have seen cases of people that had issues in their education, issues in their college, and they are denied although they are eligible. So that's why it is always important to keep in mind what is your primary goal. So let's say that your goal at the end might be to reside permanently in the country, to stay, to bring your family, to support your family back. But that's the main goal, the main vision. But what you need to keep in mind is that that main vision or that main goal is made of small milestones. So milestone number one, graduate. Graduate and do it in the best possible way. Okay. Of course, work on the side, maintain some sort of work-life balance as much as you can because it's not easy. But definitely keep in mind that you're studying, and if you're not doing well in your studies, the chances of making it to the final goal are slimmer. So definitely, I will say that's number one.
So thanks for sharing that. And also, many people will be reaching for your mentorship, right? So is there any qualifications that you look into that person before mentoring them?
Yeah, look, for mentoring, I may not have too much time right now, but I can tell you that I love doing it. And I have
Mhm.
plenty of examples of people that I have mentored in the past in my previous roles, and that right now they are very successful. And if they are listening to this, I would like to highlight my dear Isha Shala and my dear Irfan Mohammed. I really, really love to see you shining right now. And you will see that what I always look in a person, either if it is to mentor the person or to hire the person, is that potential. I never hire, let's say, diamonds. I never hire stars because stars are already shining. What I want to get from someone is that shine. I want to get that bright from the person. So what I look into a person in case I want to mentor that person or I want to help that person is show me that you want. Show me that you are fresh, that you want to learn, that you want to work for it, that you are eager, okay, that you're willing. So one thing is that you don't know something, and another thing is that you don't know but you will find out. That's a big difference. And as I always like to say, this is kind of like a part of my philosophy. So my philosophy really in life and in management is I don't hire diamonds, I hire stones that I can polish into diamonds. I don't hire trees that are grown up. I hire seeds that I can plant, seeds that I can water, seeds that I can work on so that they later on not even become trees. They become bonsai.
Yeah, mentoring them is a great idea because that's how they start, that's how they grow. So thanks for sharing that. And also, like, you have done various roles, right? So which role was interesting and why in
Ah,
education?
that's a hard one because every role I will say has taught me like very valuable lessons. So I would
Mhm.
like to say all of them, okay, all of them. But if I've been asked to provide one, I will say that my time at Ace Acumen Academy was kind of like a time that I will remember always with a lot of praise. It
Mhm.
is why is that? Because it was kind of like my first managerial experience in the education field. So I was
Mhm.
doing a lot of the stuff that I later on developed for other companies that I later on do for my current company. So it was
Mhm.
that experience that really taught me the things that I know now
Mhm.
that helped me to help a lot of people after down the road. And
Mhm.
I will say that I will keep always that in my heart, and especially my boss in that time, so that she was amazing and she really like influenced me the way that I was able to develop, and later on that I was able to develop my own philosophy and my own way of working.
Right now you have been dean, right? So what will be the responsibilities, like how is the work? I think you're pretty busy, right?
Well, it is busy, but as I mentioned at the beginning, let's say that it is something that I enjoy. So it is something that I really love doing, and for me, education is that it's something that I feel passion for. So
Mhm.
there's this saying that says that if you feel passion for what you do, you will never work a day in your life. So for me, it's not like a lot of work. It's more like fun. It's about helping people. It's about seeing people develop. It's about looking student success succeed. It's about helping faculty. So is just great. Like if you ask me what are the things that I do, I essentially manage, coordinate, direct the business programs for a college in Alberta. So this includes like a course development, this includes materials, this includes faculty, this includes budgeting, a lot of responsibilities. But essentially, what I mentioned at the beginning, this is passion, and I really do it because I love it.
Sharing that, and we are in the end of the podcast. So, do you want to share any life lesson or any suggestions that you want to give to youngsters?
Yeah, I think I have shared pretty much of it, but I can tell you that just kind of like for your audience, follow your dreams, okay, and keep in mind that you may have a big goal at the end, a macro goal that we can call it, but that macro goal is made of micro goals. So just keep in mind always the big picture, but never forget the small one. Okay, look at the forest. Okay, but never forget that that forest is made of trees. Okay, so enjoy every time you kind of like achieve one of those trees, because at the end, when you look back, you will look at the forest and you will say, I did that. Okay, so super super recommendation, just to say goodbye to your audience as well, is to watch, if you have not yet done it, the speech that Steve Jobs delivered at Stanford University. I think is from 2008 or something. So
Yeah,
it's an amazing speech that really changed my life in that time, and it really talks about connecting the dots. And connecting the dots cannot be done something forward into life. We cannot see the future. We can only connect the dots backwards. So you will say that, for example, I got this amazing job as associate dean because I was able to provide this or that, or do this or that as academic director, and because of the program manager, then before of the program coordinator, because I was able to move to Canada, because I put the effort into applying and all of that. Then you are just connecting the dots, okay, and looking back and seeing the forest that is full of the trees that you have done in the past. So it's kind of like my whole lesson for it is just follow your passion and do it. Okay, give it a try. Challenge yourself. Challenge your ghost. Challenge your imposter syndrome. You are not that bad, so don't be that rude with yourself.
thanks for sharing that, Henry. The great suggestion, and thank you for your time. This is the end of the podcast. If you've not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe to my channel and please share the video. Thanks, everyone.